This is the Peter Greenwood Show. I'm up here at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I have somebody who's sitting to my left, as most people normally do. Could you tell me your name and your show title, please?
Hello, Peter. My name is Richard Stirling, and the name of my show is Mandy, Prince of Darkness, or The Words of Peter Mandelson.
Peter Mandelson. He's been in the news recently.
He has.
What can you tell us about this show, and where does Peter come into it?
Peter comes into it because it's really an exploration of how legend and reputation are inaccurate things, and you think you know someone, you think you'll feel safe to judge them. Are you? Or is it something that you need to require to answer in yourself? People say about me, Peter, you've come back when you didn't deserve to. Perhaps the answer is, why did I come back? What call did I answer? Was it your call? And did you need me? And more importantly, will you need me again? Now, I began the show in gestation in February because at the end of last year, 2025, when Mandelson was bounced from Washington, I thought that was going to be the end of him. But something bizarre happened on the first weekend of February. The Sunday Times magazine ran a very in-depth conversation with him at home, and he was looking very confident and planning a future. Again, completely to my surprise, he was saying, I'm going to be more of an outsider looking in than the other way around. And I thought, well, how can this be? Because in the week before that magazine appeared, there had been the last and most major release of Epstein files, which showed categorically that Mandelson had known more and had been more of an acquaintance of Epstein's than he had admitted. Certainly that he had allowed to be broadcast during his time as ambassador. He had denied having any personal or business relationship, and this was shown to be untrue. But what was extraordinary was that the magazine article showing him at home cooking, munching toast, looking ineffable, confident and possibly rather smug, had been printed a few days before the release of the Epstein files, and the news story on the front page was right up to date. So you had the bizarre spectacle of a very buoyant and hopeful magazine article being completely trumped by the ruinous headlines on the front page and on the inside pages, which categorically, I think, show that Mandelson cannot now come back. It's possible, I suppose, anything's possible, but I don't think the public has the stomach for it anymore. I think he's become such a totemic figure for everything that's misguided and sneaky in politics, that whether or not that is fair to Peter Mandelson is not the point. He's blown it, I think, and the magazine article being so much in opposition to the news story in that same edition of the Sunday Times made me think, well, if he's certainly not boring, I think there might be a show here. But my only perimeter was, I'm not going to try and write a play about Peter Mandelson. It has to be in his own words. My craft, if you like, has been to juxtapose those words, because it's extraordinary for such an adept spin doctor. He really is now hoist by his own petard.
See, I'm of an age where I remember New Labour back in 1997, and I remember Mandelson being all over the place. And when you become him, it's unnerving. I don't like it.
Well,
I mean, I like it, but I don't like him.
Well, you know, people call me the Prince of Darkness, and I think I'm really the Dark Lord now, not the Prince of Darkness. You might say, Peter, that I've gone up in the world, one Peter to another, you know. I don't know, it all began when Tony Blair became leader back in the 1990s. And I think people associated me with campaign glitz and razzmatazz and the occasional deployment of media dark arts. Yes, and the media dark arts, that is such an interesting expression because he was the absolute archetypal spin doctor. He was the most famous spin doctor. People like Dominic Cummings, Alistair Campbell, Morgan McSweeney, they have no hold on the situation the way Peter Mandelson did, because as he said, he has been at the centre of British politics across 4 decades. That doesn't happen by accident. And I do think that we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions about why it was that we've gone back to him, not just his fellow politicians, but us, why we have allowed him to be part of our national conversation. Is it because until the recent horrors with Epstein, we kind of had a benign amusement or tolerance for the kind of the wicked pantomime figure? I'm not sure. I knew about Epstein. I knew about the Jeffrey Robinson loan scandal to buy the flat, and also to an extent the Hinduja passport thing. I'd forgotten he was also the chap that signed off on the dome when it was not a success story. And
to say the least.
That's right. And also
again, I remember the dome.
Well, if you remember the dome, then probably even more, because it was after that the really bad scandal, I think in a way for us as Brits, it's worse than Epstein in some respects, and that is the wreckage caused by the Horizon post office scandal, and that caused real misery. Now, he wasn't alone on that. Ed Davey and people from various other political parties had a hand in that. But it is extraordinary that despite this litany of failure, there has been a sort of at times almost an amused tolerance of Peter Mandelson. He's a wicked pantomime character, but he's our wicked pantomime character, do you know? And I wanted to see how far I could balance the absolute charm that he does have in real life and the fun and the naughtiness which makes people sit up and feel quite interested with the very dark shadows that follow him.
So how do you extract Peter the character from Peter the dark figure? That's a really good question, and I'm not sure that there is an answer to it, because as he said, he didn't choose the Labour Party, he was born into it. He has been a lifetime politician. It's all he knows. Now, I myself am not persuaded, some are, but I'm not, of his intellectual brilliance. I'm not sure he is. I think he is a very, very cunning operator. I don't think it's something he necessarily tries to do. I just think it's something he does do. I think that is his life. And so when you ask me how do I separate the public figure from the private, well, I'm not altogether sure that there is a private figure. I don't know how he has lived the last 6 months. Since that Sunday Times article came out, he has hibernated in Regent's Park at his home there. There are serious legal questions and investigations to which he is still party. And it was interesting that he emerged for the first time about a week ago at Hampstead Heath Pond, swimming. I think I saw those photos because I was like, really? He's just out here swimming? Everyone's okay with that? He's just there?
Absolutely. And Peter Mandelson pulled himself out of the pond, and his stomach came about 5 seconds after him. I mean, the man has put on a pile of weight. And I thought, yes, you've been inside eating or not exercising. What have you been doing? And I'm not sure I have a good answer for that, because his address book is empty. He doesn't have the fun of people anymore. He doesn't have the fun of the situation of spinning, the fun of politics. He is really, I think, facing a life that I would not want to face, and by that I mean I don't think it's anything much at all. I don't think he has a life outside politics as much as an existence, and that's not a very happy existence at the moment, I would think.
I would hope. Let me ask about the show. What's people's reactions been to the show and to you as Peter?
Yes, it's funny. They do like the fun, the jokes, some of which to give Mandelson his due in his book and in his utterances publicly, he has told against himself. But then again, you see that spin. He tries to get ahead. No, don't try and ask me that silly tale about mushy peas and guacamole, because I can tell it much better than you can. So he kind of jumps ahead of everyone on that respect. But I think the audience enjoy that. But there's little I can do or would want to do about getting overt humour out of the latter stages of the show, because he does go into a dark place. And I think it is a sobering thing for the audience that this has been recent stuff, even in the last 2 or 3 decades. That's modern history. But it is Machiavellian. It does make one think of the darker political shenanigans that one hears about from previous generations with other figures. There's something, as I say, I feel that, and I don't like saying this, but I think that Mandelson answers some dark need in us. We seem to want this spin. We seem to engage with the storytelling of it. We do like stories. The stories that he spins about his political situations are more interesting than the story of Peter Mandelson per se. I think he exists as the power behind the throne, which he has been. And he would love to think of himself as being a kingmaker, but absolutely not a king. And as a prince of darkness, well, he calls himself that. It's a self-reverential thing as much as a name that he's been given.
Maybe something we should have listened to when he called himself the Prince of Darkness.
I think you're right, Peter. May I ask you? I mean, what's your not as with regard to my show, but what's your understanding about somebody in Peter Mandelson's position? If he does interest you, or possibly fascinate you, why would that be?
I think at the moment, my interest is finding out more about his role within the Epstein files and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and how that was hidden for so long and how that didn't come to the fore. Was he involved in spinning himself?
Yes. He has this line at the end that he pays tribute to his parents, and I use one quote I use from the title page of his book. His dedication is to my parents who gave me my values. I mean, my God, that's a very double-sided thing, because if he really means that, I wonder what he thinks of his parents be thinking of him now. And the other thing is he has this line, and he said this only last year. He said, I deeply regret ever having been introduced to Mandelson. It's always somebody else's fault, the person who introduced, or his boyfriend or his husband, who took the loan. And all this kind of palming off of blame really doesn't help him, because in one respect I do feel for him. He was the focus of a great amount of very tacky homophobic abuse in the press in the 90s and into the 2000s. Yeah. Yet, on the other hand, he is one of the instigators. He's one of the people who set up that line of journalism, who encouraged it to be foisted on, or who encouraged other politicians to be viewed in dubious terms. So I think the problem with Mandelson is that the animal that he bred started biting him, and he didn't like it. But
it's very snake eating its own tail.
I think so. But he does have this line right at the end, and he said this last year. He said, yes, it was a terrible mistake, an albatross around my neck.
Yeah.
He said, a charismatic criminal liar. And of course, those words I ascribe fairly and squarely to Mandelson just as much as Epstein. But you have to love the character you play, and I don't intellectualize that. I just damn well do it. Do you know?
Yes.
He does have energy. He does have a brightness that makes him want to get up in the morning, even if that's for a dubious job. And I quite like that. And I think we all like, even if, well, I hope that we're brave enough to admit this, we do like the feeling of power on occasion, don't we?
It'd be nice to have more power. I mean, I literally just press stop and start, but that's my power. That's what I've got.
Oh, well, I'm beholden to it, Peter.
Do you think Peter knows about this show?
Oh, the best thing that Mandelson can do is close me down. If you're watching Peter Mandelson, I can't call you Lord anymore. Why wouldn't you be, indeed? Shut me down. It would be marvellous. And remember, it's your words I'm saying, just not always in the order in which you said them.
That would be a hell of a PR campaign.
Yeah.
A show Mandelson doesn't want you to see.
Yes, that would. A cease and desist would be hugely helpful, Peter.
Yep, and there's still a little bit left of the fringe, so come on, Peter, snap to it. Pitter-patter.
2 more weeks to get your people on me.
What is next for you and for the show after the fringe?
The next thing I'm doing is connected with the Manchester International Festival. I'm not by nature someone who visits immersive projects, even though I think immersive theatre can be hugely exciting. But I'm going full pelt into an immersive project for 2027, which is workshopping in Manchester with a very good friend of mine in September. That's Jane Horrocks.
Oh, I know of Jane. How is Jane?
Very well.
She's one of those people who you think, oh, she'd be great to talk to, but not even to interview, just to sit and talk to her. So you're the closest I'm ever going to get to Jane. How is Jane in 2026?
Yeah, she's super. Yeah, she's funny.
I'd love to. If you're listening, Jane,
yes,
say hi.
Jane, say hi to Peter.
Where can people find out more about you and the show online?
Right. Well, I don't have a website. I probably should, but I don't. I'm on Wikipedia until they wipe me from that. And the show will be going to London at some stage. I think possibly to Jermyn Street at some stage, either later this year or beginning of next. And but you'll know what it's like, Peter. When you're in the festival, it's like you get bunker mentality. It's just
Nothing
all about the now.
Exists.
Yeah.
Not a thing exists outside of this.
And things that should be completely unimportant take on totemic
They really do.
import. And the really important things, forget them. They'll be there in a fortnight.
Let me ask you this before I let you go. Would you want Peter to come and see it or Tony to come and see it?
Well, I don't think Tony Blair would be up for it, or Gordon Brown, but I would like them to see it because I think it's interesting to think what they think about him now, and that's not an irrelevant question. It doesn't matter what Blair or Brown thinks of Mandelson. It does matter because he really had a finger on their pulse, and he guided them through, and he was behind them for a decade and a half, if not 2 decades, of British politics, and it's very enmeshed.
Yeah, without them we wouldn't have him, and without him we wouldn't have them.
That's right, and those tendrils extend now. I think Mandelson really did try his utmost to get rid of Corbyn, for instance, and he also had. And by the way, I don't blame him for this. This is something that all good politicians try and do. I understand he did have friendships across the House. So he had this weird love-hate relationship with George Osborne, which continued right up until last year when, having left George Osborne's house, he was caught short and had a wee in the bushes and has been fined £300 for that. And that was the moment that the press snapped him. And I thought, but you were at Osborne's house for dinner and you were such political enemies. Frenemies probably, but they had spats in public and all that. And that fascinates me, the clubbishness of politics. It's not, I think at that level, it's not just about the party you belong to, it's about the circle you inhabit. And I don't know, Peter, if that culture will now change given the amount of fallout from Mandelson. I think not. I think people are too freaked out and insecure not to make their own little cabals, and sometimes those are with the strangest people and across the strangest political divides. So, when I said earlier, is that the end of Mandelson? Well, maybe, but that's not to say another Mandelson won't appear in some form.
There's always another one, isn't there? I've got to let you go now, but thank you so much for your time, Richard.
Peter, it's lovely to meet you.
Mandy, Prince of Darkness, is playing at 10:30 in the morning at Ivy Studios at Greenside at George Square, every day until the 29th of August, not including the 23rd. For more tickets and for information, go to edfringe.com and search for Mandy, Prince of Darkness. Until next time, I've been Peter, I've been to the Fringe. Let me know what you've seen. Bye, everybody, bye.